Bonjour tout le monde, ici Steve Jean, bienvenue à QCMTV Podcast, le balado québécois dédié à la passion du vélo de montagne. Aujourd'hui, c'est avec un épisode un peu spécial, c'est ma première entrevue en anglais. Mon invité ne parle pas français, alors j'espère que vous serez indulgents avec moi pour la qualité de mon anglais, mais surtout j'espère que vous apprécierez cette rencontre. Je vous présente donc Adam Robbins. Adam est un athlète semi-professionnel qui compétitionne en descente, en enduro et en gravel. Puis Adam partage son temps et sa passion entre les compétitions et son emploi de product manager chez Faction Bike Studio. Adam Robbins, welcome to QCMTV Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me at your home. It's quite nice and also quite nice from you to have me. So I appreciate a lot. Can you tell us, in fact, a little bit about you and what you do for a living?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, first off, thanks again for having me on. It's pretty cool. I've tried to listen to a couple episodes in the past, and for me, it's a good way to practice and speak some French. So unfortunately, I don't know if I can do much speaking in French today, but definitely having your podcast is something I can listen to and try and pick up on some French. So yeah, thanks for having me. And so today is pretty cool. We're doing this and just finished up work. Yeah. And I am the product manager at Faction Bike Studio. And Faction Bike Studio is a pretty unique place. It's pretty undercover. No one really knows exactly what we do, but it's an industrial design and engineering firm in Granby. And we make bikes for different brands all over the world.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool because, like I said, no one really knows who we work for, and we keep that a secret. So everything's nice and confidential, but we still get to work on some pretty amazing projects, and a lot of bikes that most people would be riding today could be project that we have worked on in the past. So it's pretty cool. We get to work on many different types of bikes, from downhill bikes to road bikes to urban commuter bikes and everything in between. So it's pretty diverse. We learn a lot. And we try to support the bike industry the best that we can and make sure everyone's having a good time on two wheels.
So what is the product manager is doing at Faction Bike?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a kind of a unique role because it's a newer service to Faction.
Okay.
So typically our engineers and design team come up with frames and components. And recently with the product management service, a client can come to us and I'm able to spec their bikes with specific components that meet their budgets or budgets that we have set for them. So we get to work really closely with the clients and choose the best components for the best value bike or whatever project they really have.
So you can dive deeper into their needs and maybe find the needs that they didn't know they have.
100%. So it's pretty cool, and there's so many different options for components and product spec. So, being able to learn from all the projects that we get to work on from different clients, the product knowledge we have is huge. So it really helps out.
That's pretty cool. So you're not from around the area. Right now we are at Beaumont. So you live in Beaumont, but, I think you lived your childhood in Toronto or near Toronto.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, like as you said, today we're in Beaumont. It's now my home, but it hasn't always been. So yeah, I grew up in Ontario, in London, Ontario. So outside Toronto, right in between Toronto and Detroit. And that's where it all started. Grew up, like most kids, playing your traditional sports, especially in Canada. Hockey's a pretty common sport for everyone to play. So grew up doing a bunch of that. And then one of my buddies from school, his dad and older brother were always riding bikes. And eventually, instead of hanging out with my buddy, I wanted to go ride bikes with his dad and his older brother. So they took me out to some trails, just some simple cross-country trails, and kind of fell in love with it. So at that time, I kind of stopped playing hockey, stopped playing baseball. The traditional sports were out of the window, and I just wanted to ride my bike. So that's where it all started, and then met up with my coach, kind of mentor, Brandon Castle. He was the manager at a bike shop called Two Wheels in London.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I got a bike for you if you want to try it out." And it was a giant Reign. It was a full suspension. So I got to ride that bike for an entire summer. And it kind of opened my whole world and really kind of showed me what was possible. And my parents got me almost the same bike, but the newest version for Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started to do some O-Cups the following year, like the Ontario Cup downhill series.
Okay.
So it was a perfect entry to riding and to racing. I mean,
you had to travel a lot from Toronto, from
yeah, for sure,
to go riding somewhere.
Yeah. So like the first year that I started riding, I think there was 3 Ontario Cups. There was one in Kelso, just outside Toronto, and there was one at Horseshoe Valley, which is still like a bike park today. Mm-hmm. And then Blue Mountain, which now isn't open, but that was kind of the first 3 races and places I got to experience from riding. And I think it was the second year, Brandon, my coach there, he took me right out to the US Open in New Jersey. And so that was pretty eye-opening. I'd never been to a mountain, never experienced much elevation or rocks or roots. It's always just been some smooth dirt. So getting to the US Open was pretty spectacular. And I remember for the qualifying run, at that time I must have been, I think I was 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. And Lucas Shaw was also a cadet. So he was a couple of years older, but we were in the same category. And he was dropping in behind me for qualifying. So, I mean, that was pretty eye-opening from the start. And since then it's just evolved, and I've started to travel almost every weekend, at least 8 or 9 hours in the car every weekend just to go ride bikes.
Wow.
So, pretty crazy.
So then you really started to compete seriously, and what do you do? Mostly downhill from there? Or?
Yeah. From the start, it was almost all downhill. I guess the main thing too is if we wanted to ride, it made sense to go away racing. Mm-hmm. The bike parks were getting popular, but it made sense just to go race for your weekend. So it was only focused on downhill racing. And at the beginning, I don't know if there was ever a plan to kind of make it a job or do anything crazy with it. It was just for the love of going riding, hanging out with some cool people, and just having the adrenaline thrill.
Is there a point it became like mostly a plan to get it more serious in your life, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was in cadet, so that's like, I think I was 15, 16 years old, and we had our Ontario Cups, and I think I had the fastest time of the day. So I beat out a bunch of pros, and like the pros at that time were like pretty world class. Mm-hmm. Like Rob Fraser, he owns like a sock company now. So people might know who he is, but kind of like a legend. He was there. I think he was in that race, and I might have beat him. Sid Slaughtergraph, like racing World Cups. Like that guy's insane as well. Like double backflips way back in the day. He could kind of do everything. Like those guys kind of stood out to me as like idols. Mm-hmm. And then putting up times that were faster, if not close to them, was kind of exciting, and it gave me a lot of confidence. So then at that point, we're like, okay, maybe I do some bigger races and see where we could go with this.
Take it more seriously then.
Yeah, for sure.
So from there, you went outside Ontario. It said you went to the US. Did you?
Yeah.
So what happened next?
Yeah, so I guess from there, Brandon, like he was kind of the driving force, him and my parents for sure, getting me to all the different races. So the main focus was always kind of in the US. Mm-hmm. It was around 7 hours to get to some of the closer bike parks. So Mountain Creek, Plattekill. So we started doing the Eastern States Cups.
Yeah.
The competition was good. The tracks were amazing. Mm-hmm. And it was a good way to kind of get recognized in the American market. And Brandon always told me too, there was a bit more of a possibility with sponsorship dollars and all that to kind of support with careers. And especially when you have to drive so far every weekend, a little bit of support can go a long way just to keep you racing. The results started to get better at the Eastern States Cups. I was then at this point getting into junior, and my times were pretty competitive with the top guys. So that was pretty exciting. And then I guess like the Pro GRT series was a pretty big one for me to go and race. I think I was in the first year junior getting some top 10s. So that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then even into the Canada Cup series at Tremblant, that was like always kind of the season starter. Mm-hmm. And I had some pretty good results there. I think, I won the junior category both years of junior. So that was pretty cool. And I think I was like within the top 10 in pro. So that was pretty exciting for me as a junior. And I think that year, actually, my second year junior, I finished up 3rd or 4th overall in the Canada Cup series. So that was a pretty big highlight for me.
This is the year you did your first World Cup then?
Yeah. So I think my first World Cup was definitely as a first year junior. It might have been at Wyndham, New York.
Okay.
So that was my first one. I managed to qualify at every World Cup that I went to as a junior. So for me, that's something that's pretty amazing. And like, we can see how difficult that is. So I'm pretty proud to say that I've made the cut at every junior World Cup that I went for.
You did some really good results too in some of those races.
Yeah.
St. Anne and
for sure.
Fort William, I think. Eh?
Yeah, St. Anne and Fort William were definitely my best results, I think, of my career in total.
Oh, yeah.
I was 13th at both of those.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing. Eh?
Thanks. Yeah, I was super proud of those.
You should have been a big party for that.
yeah, it was for sure. I mean, not many people even get to go to World Cups, and then to be 13th at Fort William and Mont St. Anne, like two of what everyone calls the craziest tracks and the most legendary tracks. It's I'm pretty proud of those, and I don't know if it's many people get that opportunity. So just being able to do that and to have those results is something I'll never forget, and it's a big part of my career and life.
Yeah, at that time, did your parents follow you in those races, or did you manage?
Yeah, so my parents came to almost every race I've ever been to. My mom, she's definitely pretty scared to watch it, as most moms are. But my dad, for sure, he's been to every race. Always supportive. He's kind of like he's the main guy, kind of backing everything. So funding it for the longest time, and just being like the support guy. He was he fueled the dream, that's for sure.
He must have been proud of you many times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think he was definitely. And even today, I think he's still pretty proud of what's going on. Yeah.
So you mentioned sooner that, like beginning of the big races in the US, you kind of have an expectation from getting some sponsorship. So at what point that it happens to you?
I guess it kind of started from Brandon at Two Wheels. Right from the bat, he lent me that giant bike for a summer. So, I mean, that helped out a bunch.
That's big.
It's huge. I mean, not many people get free bikes or even discounts on bikes. So the fact that he was able to lend me a bike for the summer, it definitely was that was like a huge sponsor for me, helping out with cost on products and free service. I mean, it's just the biggest help you can ever ask for. Really, it was the best, and he didn't really expect too much in return. Obviously, we would want to promote the bike shop Two Wheels and make everyone go there, but it's not like he was expecting like media posts or anything crazy. It was just like he wanted everyone to enjoy cycling, and he wanted to help people get to their limit. And
it's so cool.
Yeah, so he's definitely like a huge driving factor for where I am today. First sponsor was definitely him, and he tried to help me out with people from Giant, like as they sold Giant bikes. Tried to get Giant Canada to support me and stuff. So they definitely helped out a little bit as well. But again, I mean, all through Two Wheels. And then I'd say, I think it was after my first year of junior, Eastern States Cup. So George Ulmer really helped out as well. He created a UCI trade team. Okay. So that allowed myself and a bunch of other kids from the East Coast to be a part of the Eastern States Cup team. And we could go to a World Cup without having to get points or wear our federation jersey. So I didn't need to wear a Canada jersey. I could wear the Eastern States Cup jersey, and that got me into the races. So that was pretty amazing as well. So shout out to George, because he helped a lot on that one.
Yeah, it's cool. So after that, you got sponsored by, is it Devinci?
Yeah, it would have been Devinci at that point. So this is kind of, I guess, where things start to tie in with Quebec.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point, I was doing well, like I mentioned, in the Canada Cup series. And Bastien, he had major cycles at the time. So that was the team that was under his own name. And it was definitely the top team in Canada to race for.
And there's a bunch of good rider with you there.
For sure. Yeah. Like Phil Ricard, Daniel Shaw, those were the guys on the team when I was there. But I mean, Sam Thibault before that, like I look up to these guys and they were like the fastest guys around. So when Bass asked me to join, it was pretty amazing. It was a big thing for me, and I was super happy to do that. So that was exciting. And that year I got to go to Europe for the entire year and give it a shot at the pro rankings at all the World Cups, even some Crankworks events. So that was really cool. That was kind of like a big travel experience year for me. And Devinci and Bass helped out a lot. So that was the most professional I feel like it was for my younger career.
So when you were with Devinci, were there any like big ranking world class rider with you?
Yeah, so I guess at that time, like on major cycles the first year, it was just Phil Ricard, Daniel Shaw, and myself. So more of like a Canadian-based team.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was amazing just being able to travel with those guys and ride. Like a fully Canadian-based team was cool because Daniel was from BC, I was from Ontario, and Phil was from Quebec. So it was pretty cool to put like a bunch of provinces together and travel with those guys. We learned a lot. And I guess at the end of that year, so that was at the end of 2017, Bass got the job to become like the Devinci Global Racing team manager.
Yeah.
So at that time, he couldn't really manage major cycles as well. So all of our spots turned into just Devinci ambassadors.
Okay.
So that was pretty unique as well. And it was the same time that I switched from racing downhill and gave Enduro a shot.
Oh, yeah.
So that was also a really big change for me. And I think at that time I was pretty ready to move away from downhill. I think after my World Cup results, getting, like we mentioned, 13th at Fort William, making Team Canada and going to Worlds, I felt like for me I wasn't really going to get much faster. I wanted to focus on school, and my dad always said, you need a backup plan.
Yeah.
So after getting those big results, racing 1 year pro, full season in Europe, and then starting university, I think it made sense to switch over to Enduro.
So what time was it?
So this was going into the 2018 season.
2018, okay.
Yeah.
So it'd be mostly at the beginning of the sports, and the hype was...
the hype was real for Enduro, and I felt for me growing up in Ontario and living in Ontario, it made most sense. Like at home, I would never touch a downhill bike.
Okay.
I would only use it for race weekends and when I would travel, but I would always be on a trail bike, like every day, putting in kilometers, even on the gravel bike, cyclocross bike. That was a huge part of my riding.
Yeah.
So it made more sense for me to give Enduro a shot. So that's where things kind of started for that, and went to all the Eastern States Cups that year, and I won a good majority of them. I think my worst result that year was a third. So it was pretty cool. I came away being the Eastern States Cup overall champ for 2018. And I mean, it was pretty unreal. Some of my best results were definitely that year. I think I was also 10th at the EWS in Whistler as a like under 21 or under 23. Can't remember exactly what it was, but so that was a big result for me, and it was almost equally as good of a feeling as the World Cups. So it was pretty cool. And at that point, I was pretty hooked on Enduro and didn't really want to look back on downhill, actually.
Yeah, the results were there, and you found your niche.
Yeah,
should I say?
For sure.
So, and how is it about the crowd, but
like the
community and the people that are racing? Is it different, like about the ambience?
Yeah, I definitely at that time when I made the switch, it was a different vibe.
Yeah.
I think at that time in the downhill, it was all about like absolutely just sending it, like kind of not risking it, but I guess taking some more risks, and you had to be very specific and precise with your line choice, and it would really cater to someone that was willing to let go of the brakes, and if they made it through the section, they're going to do well, but there was a high chance that they could have a really big crash. And I felt like I really wasn't into that anymore. I wanted to kind of be a bit safer, be smart about my riding, and read the trails as it comes. I felt like that was a big strength I had. So the enduro crowd was a bit more laid back, I would say, more focused on fitness for sure. So it was a bit refreshing. It was a bit of a new community, a new scene, and just a new challenge that I really enjoyed, and something that I felt I was kind of maybe supposed to be a part of from the start.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy when I found enduro.
Yeah. For an athlete, I think enduro is kind of the best thing, like for a challenge. Like, you must push yourself. Like when you started, it was like many days the races. At that time, we saw races which were like 3-4 days.
For sure.
So as an athlete, you must. It's a big challenge. It's like.
Yeah, definitely a huge challenge. I think, like you mentioned, the races were super long at this time. I think it started I remember there was an Enduro 2018 at Burke in Vermont, and it went from Burke, like the ski area, all the way into Victory, which is a huge, like, there's a lot of pedaling to get there. And it was a 2-day event. And even to this day, I don't know many people that have said there's been a bigger race.
Oh, yeah.
So just like how much area and kilometers that we covered was pretty crazy, but you still had to be able to perform at your highest level on the descents.
So how many hours?
I think the race was probably I think the first day was like 4 to 5 hours and like 40 something kilometers, like over 1,500 meters of elevation climbed. So that was pretty crazy. And we had a huge day the second day as well, like racing Upper J Bar day 2, like the Rude Awakening Trail as well. Like they're pretty long tracks. And those were day 2, and you had to climb the toll road a couple times. So pretty grueling.
So how was it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed just the full aspect and the full range of the enduro. I mean, it kind of
fun.
it encompassed everything it is to be a mountain biker. You had to be self-sufficient. You had to bring your water, your food. You had to manage your energy. Like you still had to perform on the downhills to be super fast, but like everything goes into it.
On a track you haven't seen before.
Yeah, you rode it once, and if we did a trip maybe a year or two before, like you've rode it, but it's a new year, you got to read the trail and kind of just, it rewards an overall really good cyclist. So I thought it was kind of cool.
So we said you races in a few disciplines from the beginning, like downhill, enduro. You've done some gravel races too.
Yeah.
So which is the thing you prefer?
Oh, definitely. Enduro is definitely my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
The gravel is something a little bit newer for me, but something that I think as I get older, I'm really enjoying. I think the first time I was really getting into it was maybe around the time I switched from downhill to enduro. One of my buddy at home who got me into riding, Jack Pataga, him and his dad were always into cross country, and Jack dabbled in some downhill. He kind of inspired me at the beginning, but was always more like cross country and road. And just training and riding with him, we would do mega days on the road bike around London, just going through farm fields and really wherever we could go. So that kind of started this whole like almost getting addicted to Strava and seeing how many kilometers you could do. So that was really fun. And then we did a couple ultra marathon cross country races together. I mean, I was on a big enduro bike at the time. It didn't really make sense, but we would go and do like 8-hour races together. So that was almost the start, but it was always just for training and for fun. It never really meant anything to me. And it kind of evolved. And I think when I started riding for GT, they had the GT grade. And I always just rode this bike as what I called my trail bike in Ontario, because it made the trails feel more challenging. You have drop bars and you could carry crazy good speed. And I would post these videos online of me ripping my gravel bike on cross country trails. Yeah. And that got a lot of attention and a lot of hype. And I was like, wow, this is unique. I guess most people don't do this. And even today, most people don't do that. And it kind of just started me doing some commercials and some ads for GT for the GT grade.
Yeah, I saw those.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So that was pretty unique and kind of a thing that I didn't know that I would ever expect to be a part of. Yeah. And now it's a little bit of who I am. And then, this year they invited me to go to Enduro, Pennsylvania. So GT was sponsoring the event, and it made sense for me to show up. And didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was going to be a big day.
Yeah.
And started, didn't really know where the map was or anything. And thought, okay, well, we got some stages to push for. And I would just basically go as hard as I could from the start to the finish, not even knowing where the finish was. Met some amazing people throughout the day, like Enduro style and fashion. It's kind of a party as well.
Oh, yeah.
So it was pretty amazing. And then at the end of the day, we're just hanging out, checked results, and we're like, oh, no way. Like, I finished in third. So that was pretty cool to see that. I know the guys there were pretty strong, and I can't say I really knew much about them before, but after looking at their Instagrams and their race history after, they're pretty fast guys. So to know that I was up in the mix with them is kind of cool. And gravel is something I've always just used as training, but now it could be something I could be interested in to potentially race a bit more.
As I hear you, I think it's like the same kind of vibe than the enduro at the time, like big days, fun, relax and pushing yourself as hard as you can.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, actually. Like, even at work, we feel as though, or I think maybe not, we don't feel it, but we can kind of see for trends that a lot of the disciplines are getting more aggressive. So cross country right now, you can see is getting more aggressive. Like, the bikes are having more suspension, they have dropper posts, and the tracks are becoming more technical.
Yeah.
And then gravel bikes are turning slowly into older cross country bikes.
Exactly.
So everything's kind of having that like next progression and next step to being more technical. So it's kind of the same feeling I had when I went from downhill to enduro is now kind of from enduro to gravel. So like they're all so different, but you just get different communities and different cultures within.
Yeah.
So it feels like a new challenge, and like it still has features and feelings of like enduro and down, like it's all mixed in, but you get different people and a new challenge, and
novelties.
It's a bit refreshing at the same time. So it's cool to kind of dabble into all the different disciplines.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I watched the videos with you on the GT grade, and it gave me the taste of like, I want to try this bike on the cross country trail. Something.
For sure.
I want to climb Bromont with it and rip those berms. And
It's so true. Yeah, I mean, the gravel bike, it's kind of, I like to think of it as a do everything bike.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I take it to work with me. So in the mornings I'll do my commute, and then after work I can go for a huge ride. I can go around Lac Brome, go around Bromont, go to Sutton. Like,
so do you go from here, Bromont, to Granby to your biopedaling?
Yeah, exactly.
How long does it take?
I think it's about 30 something minutes and about 16 kilometers, about that. But yeah, most of the guys at work commute. It's kind of just the culture at Faction is ride your bike and just live for cycling.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that a lot of us go commute, and then after work we can hop on a big ride together. And with my gravel bike, I can even go ride trails. So it's pretty endless opportunities.
So you said that you're sponsored by GT. So when and how did this happen?
Yeah, I guess so. At the end of 2018, after I won the Eastern States Cup overall, at that time it was pretty big. I mean, lots of people were following the scene and stuff. And GT at this time was in Connecticut, and my buddy David Lieb, he's been a GT athlete forever, slope style, like does some crazy tricks. But he grew up in Michigan. I grew up in Ontario. So we grew up somewhat close together. Okay. And we would always see each other down at Windrock or just different places. And we always kind of just connected. We were kind of like Midwest kids. And it felt cool to know that we lived in flat lands growing up, but we're both into mountain biking. So I knew him for a little while. And then I remember we were at the US Open in 2018. So I was still on Devinci. And he's like, yo, Adam, like, it'd be so cool to like ride together. Like, you got to come meet everyone at GT. So all the top managers and like brand managers, everyone was there. So I met with Mike Morrow. who was the brand manager at GT at the time. And just like him and I kind of hit it off. He was super cool. And, just, I guess, exchange contacts. And then over the winter, he kind of gave me a little bit of a proposal. He's like, hey, like, if you want to ride for GT, like, we can hook you up with a bike and really kind of support you at some of these races. And it was the same time GT was starting to, I guess, promote more East Coast riding. Okay. I mean, GT in the past has always been like a SoCal brand, but at this time they were in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So it was a way to kind of grow their brand in the Northeast. Okay. So it made a lot of sense for me. The bikes they just got refreshed. So they were getting into like their new wave of bikes. So it made a lot of sense for me to hop onto their program. And, at the same time, I mentioned I was at school, at university, mm-hmm. and I got to do my internship at GT. So that was a really cool opportunity to race for a brand, but then also to work for them as part of an internship.
What did you study?
So I was at school for marketing. Mixed of like Western and Fanshawe, college and university in London. And part of it was to go do an internship. So being able to do this at GT mm-hmm. was pretty amazing. So when I was at GT, I was kind of supporting with like product launch videos, logistics for athletes in North America, and just supporting wherever I could and taking in as much info as possible. So that was pretty amazing. And that's kind of how things have started with GT. And even today, I mean, they have moved back to California, which I think is pretty amazing for the brand. It gives them more opportunities to pick and choose what, make their own decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff to come with GT. So everyone should definitely keep their eyes open for what's coming. It's pretty awesome. But they've just been the best people to work with and to ride for. Like, couldn't ask for anything better.
So, with more than GT, you also have a POC, POC, and wind-up components.
Yeah, for sure. So POC has been a pretty amazing sponsor. They've actually been my longest sponsor. Oh, yeah. I think they started sponsoring me in 2014.
Oh, yeah.
So quite a long time. So Pete Appleton, actually, he was running the Ontario Cups under Sir Bike-A-Lot and knew Brandon at Two Wheels really, really well. And at this time, he was also working at POC in Sweden and was like, hey, Brandon, like, we can help Adam out with some product. And I was starting to get some product from POC right from the beginning in 2014.
So nice. Huh?
And then at some point, he was kind of done with his time at POC and transferred all my contact info to the North American office. And since then, they've just been amazing, like product and just support. They've been amazing to work with, and so they're a big supporter of mine.
So now that you're working full-time at the Faction Bike Studio and still racing, like mostly every weekend, I can see it, and you are still doing really good results. It amazes me, like how you're doing to keep that level of fitness and skills to still be out there, and like you're almost on every weekend on the podiums or very close to it, and really,
Thanks.
How do you do how do you manage your time and?
Yeah, so definitely a lot of time management for sure. I try to ride my bike every day. That's always my goal, no matter what type of riding it is. Even if it's just a commute back and forth from work, or doing a mountain bike ride, or going to the dirt jumps, I try to ride every day. I like to keep my health good and like keep fit, so that's a big improving factor as well. But just riding as much as I can. And I mean, my girlfriend helps out a lot as well. Like, she'll cook most of the meals, so I can get in from a ride and the food's already prepared. So that's a big support as well. So shout out to Laurence for that stuff, because she makes it easier to still ride, and she kind of just helps out with the household stuff as well, so I don't have to do as many chores. So that's a way that I can still ride and keep up to date. Yeah. But it's definitely a challenge. I mean, working 40 hours a week and trying to race as best as you can is tough, for sure. Yeah.
So how was it this summer, like on the racing scene for you?
The racing this year has been pretty amazing. I guess at the end of university, and from when I moved to Bromont, I guess we could start there a little bit. But my last year at university, I had the opportunity to rent a chalet here in Bromont for the summer. and that was pretty amazing. I got to ride so much. And at that time, it was also COVID. So I couldn't really cross the borders. So I couldn't go to Eastern States Cups. So I kind of took almost 2 years off of racing. I took the COVID year, and then the second year, not as much. It was just kind of hanging out in Bromont. So at that time, I decided to move to Bromont full time as well. So my life really changed from Ontario to Quebec. So, I mean, you're in a new environment. So I didn't take as many weekends to go race. But once I kind of got settled in a little bit, like Laurence and I now have our apartment here in Bromont, life feels like it's kind of back on track. I have a stable job now that I work at Faction as well. Yeah. So it felt like a pretty good opportunity to start racing and like kind of push it a bit more. So, but yeah, this year has gone amazing. I've been able to balance my time, like make sure work is going well. But I think it helps too that work is something that I enjoy. Yeah. And we're working for bikes and on bikes. So it's inspiring and it's really fun. So
still related. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good balance, and yeah, the racing has been amazing. It's been a consistent year. Yeah. I definitely don't think that I push my limits as much as I used to, but if I like to make up for it in the fitness aspect. So maybe I won't pull for the gnarliest rock double or hit a turn crazy hard, but if I keep a good average speed from top to bottom and like be comfortable with my riding, seems to be paying off. I think, yeah, podiums, 5th position, 6th position, in the top 10 every race. It's motivating, and there's no need to stop if we're still doing all right.
So what are your main goals about your future?
I think main goals for the future would be to basically just ride my bike as much as I can. That's what it all comes down to.
That's what you love.
Yeah, that's what I love to do. Like racing just keeps it interesting. It keeps you wanting to improve. So it's like a nice little bonus. But even if racing wasn't a thing, I would still ride my bike every day. Yeah. But I like the competitive aspect of racing, and you feel good if you have a good result at the end of the weekend. So I like to keep that going. But just, yeah, getting fitter, riding my bike a bunch, and just being the best overall cyclist that I could be. Like whether it's a gravel ride or a road ride, keeping up with fast guys, and then hitting the dirt jumps in the evening. I like to be able to do a bit of everything. Yeah. And I like to think myself as like a really good overall cyclist. So that's, I want to keep that going.
So good. So you've traveled a lot for your races and for fun also and training. Yeah. So which country or which place is your favorite to ride?
That's a tough one because they all kind of have their own unique flavors. But I think for me, it's hard to beat like Morzine, the Portes du Soleil. That's pretty spectacular. It's so diverse with many chairlifts and different sides of mountains. So you can never really get bored there. And it makes you, I think, an incredibly good rider. But Madeira was something spectacular as well. So it's a toss-up, and even Whistler, I mean, you can never really count Whistler out, but I think if I had to pick one, Morzine would probably be my highlight. But, I mean, even Bromont for me, I chose to live here. I could have moved anywhere. I chose to move to Bromont. I think it makes you a good racer. I mean, it might not have the best flow. I know people say that a lot. There's not like the best jump trails, but I think if you want to be a world-class mountain bike racer, whether it's cross-country, downhill, or enduro, I think Bromont, it's kind of got everything you need. It's got everything. So you can make it work here.
Not many people knows that, but a lot of professional racers spends a lot of time in Bromont training and just riding for fun too. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So it's pretty unique, and I never want to take Bromont for granted. For me, it's a privilege to live here. I think there's a deep history with it as well, and yeah, I'm proud and happy to live in Bromont.
So, is there a place you never went and which is on your bucket list, or something you want to go travel and visit, or just?
I don't know if there's an exact place that I'm like I need to go there, but I'd like to do at some point more of like the trans style races. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good opportunity to go to a new place and get the full tour of what's like the best the best that they have to offer in an event.
I'm seeing you doing that.
So at some point that would be pretty fun to do. So we'll see kind of how things could work out. But for me, it's they're blind racing. You get to experience the culture, and it's guided. So I could see myself getting into some of that. And if there's some all over the world, I'd be willing to give them a shot.
Nice. There's something else I will uncover and you would like to touch on?
Oh, anything? I don't know, really. I think the big thing, not even a big thing, but I guess I just want people to know that I love riding.
Yeah.
Like no matter what type of bike. And I think that's what's cool about mountain biking and cycling in general. Whether we're racing, I mean, I guess like I promote a lot of bikes. That's kind of what my life has been, is just promoting people riding bikes.
Yeah.
So whether you're racing or riding, it's just always just good times.
I just want to say, like, I've talked about videos and I saw you and you said also that you were doing video for fun and for showing people. But I saw you recently on, I told you about that, but I saw you recently about some videos from Phil's Mets. From Skill with Phil.
Yeah, for sure.
You were here in Bromont, and I think 2 videos you were in, and also you were guiding him.
For sure.
People who haven't seen it, go look at it on YouTube on Skills with Phil. And it was just this summer. He came a few times.
Yeah, he came a couple times. Yeah, it's pretty cool with Phil. He is my teammate on GT as well. Met Phil a long time ago, actually. He was riding for Danny Cycles, which my friend's dad, he owns Danny Cycles.
Okay.
So met Phil quite a long time ago, and just, always been a good, genuine dude. So it's cool now that he can come visit Bromont, and I got to get out to his trails in Vermont. I've been telling him I've got to go down, but haven't made the trip yet. Too many races. But, Phil's a good guy. And if you get the opportunity to watch his videos, they're awesome.
Yeah. And, so guys, you were ripping these trails in Bromont, like, so fast. And I know those trails, but, never, I know that Phil is a really good rider, but you were in front of him and he was kind of, having a hard time, catching you.
For sure.
But let's say, for sure, you know the trails, a bit more, but,
for sure.
I think it would be nice, like seeing the other side, another video from you following Phil in his trails.
That would be cool. Yeah, I'll have to send him a message and we'll have to make something work.
Nice. So I'm gonna say that I wish you a good rest of the summer. Do you have any plans for racing to come? Some big things?
Yeah, I'm gonna do some Quebec Cup downhill races in the fall. So that's going to be kind of cool.
Are you going to go to Mont-Saint-Anne next weekend?
Yeah, I'll be at Mont-Saint-Anne. I'm going to leave tomorrow. I don't know when this will come out, but I'll be there at Mont-Saint-Anne for the Quebec Cup, and I'll go to the Rodden Open as well. It's my buddy Liam's place, so definitely have to go back and almost defend my title from last year. I guess Connor got me last year.
Oh yeah.
So
it's going to be there this time too, eh?
Yeah, I guess so. So I mean, it'll be hard to beat him, but I almost count my second place last year as almost a win. It's tough to race against Connor. So
for people who don't know, Connor is Connor Fearon, who is a pro athlete from Legends too, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to go there to see that. Rodden Open is gonna be a big race. I think a lot of people are gonna be there. It's gonna be a big event
for sure.
Yeah. So wishing you a really good end of the summer, nice events, and a good time at works.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Merci beaucoup.
Plaisir pour moi.
Merci tout le monde d'avoir écouté cet épisode. J'espère que vous avez apprécié. Si vous aimeriez nous encourager, s'il vous plaît, allez liker et abonnez-vous afin de rester informé de l'apparition des prochains épisodes. Puis surtout, n'hésitez pas à partager à vos amis et aidez-nous en faisant connaître le podcast. Vous pouvez aussi communiquer avec moi sur Instagram et sur Facebook à QCMTB Podcast. Donc, à la prochaine et puis bon riding!